welcome back to another Token Punch Lunch. We've got a great line of segments all ready to go for you, and I think you're going to have a great time watching them. My contributors have done a very good job, as always, so I'm looking forward to allowing you guys the opportunity to do that. Now, we are going to be running a contest starting this episode and running until the Monday before the next episode, and I'll give you a date on that in the outro. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to run a contest for the Rebellion box insert from Feldher. Now, this is a company that I met last year at Essen, and I was impressed with their products, so they gave me a few things for review, and this is a review that I actually did for the Rebellion box insert. So it's going to include the one for the expansion, and then, of course, the base core box set is going to be there as well. Now, the reason I'm giving this away is because this is really for miniatures that have been painted, or you're going to paint them in some way in the future. And I'm just not going to do that with my Rebellion insert. So I went back and I'm going to be using the Zenben's box insert that they put out for Rebellion, because it does fit everything, including the expansion. Not specifically, but everything fits in that storage solution. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and use that one. And I figured one of you guys out there, or gals, that paint their miniatures and have painted Rebellion, you could really use this insert, because it does protect each individual model in a very singular way. So it is going to protect the paint jobs that you put on those models. And so I'm going to go ahead and give this away. We're going to run this for, like I said, until the next episode, the Monday before the next episode. So what I want you to do is just send me an email to sam@dicetower.com and put in the subject heading Rebellion Storage Giveaway. Rebellion Storage Giveaway in the title section, and then you can put whatever you want in the actual body of the message. But send me a message. We'll pick one randomly, and I'll get it mailed to you as soon as I possibly can. So, with all that having been said, I do want to also say that I'm going to restrict this to American addresses only, the U.S., because shipping is getting rather expensive, and while this isn't too heavy, I don't want to chance having to dig too deep in my own pockets there. So just send me that email if you're all interested. Again, US only. Thank you, I appreciate that, and we'll get this to you. But with all that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into all those segments.
Hi, this is Ambie from Board Game Blitz, and this is Strategically Thematic, a segment where I talk about theme in different strategic games. This time, I'm talking about Antiquity. Antiquity is a civilization game that's set in the late Middle Ages. There are a few different unique and interesting mechanisms in the game that I think go really well with the theme of building up your civilization. One thing that I think is really unique about the game is that you choose your victory condition during the game after you've played a little. In the game, you're building different buildings, and one of them is a cathedral. And when you build that, you choose which saint your city is going to worship. And depending on which saint you choose, that determines your victory condition. So one person can be going for building a lot of buildings, and another person can be going for population growth, and someone else can be going for conquest. So I think that adds to the theme of having each player be a different civilization that behaves differently depending on which saint they are worshiping. Another really neat part of the game is that there are two boards that you have to pay attention to. There's the main game board in the middle of the table that everyone uses, and that's a map with a bunch of resources that you collect, and you put your cities on the board, and it's shared with everyone, so eventually you'll be fighting over resources on that map. But when you place a city on the map, you also have a city player board that's basically a blown up version of the city on the map. On the player board, you get to build your buildings inside each city. So you have like a space taken up on the map, but that's blown up on your player board, which is a grid, and each building is a block-shaped piece or a Tetris-type shaped piece that you have to put on your grid that's your city. There are other games with the Tetris-shaped piece placement, but I think Antiquity is actually the most thematic in that use, because if you're building buildings in a city, you can only place them in areas where they fit, and you won't be able to move them afterwards. So it makes sense that you're placing them on a grid. In order to build all the buildings, you need different resources, like wood and stone, and you get those on the main map. Everything requires resources, and you can harvest wood from the forests on the map, and you can harvest stone from the mountains. But what is really neat about harvesting is that everything you do causes pollution and depletes the land. So when you harvest the forests get cut down and then they turn into plains. And when you harvest the mountains or go fishing or anything else, you bring pollution with you and you can't harvest the same spot anymore because it's already gone. So in the game, there are these pollution chits that you place on every space when you're doing actions. And also at the end of each round, each city that you have produces more pollution. So just the act of the humans existing and populating the place adds pollution, which I think is really thematic and makes sense. And it also makes it really hard to get resources because as you're getting more resources and expanding, you're polluting more and it gets harder and harder to get new resources. So I think that's a really cool part of the game. Antiquity is a pretty intense civilization building game with a lot of things to keep track of and a lot of little resources and chits to look at. But it's really fun, and I think the theme actually works really well with civilization building and all of the different mechanics in the game. Thanks for watching Strategically Thematic. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Rook and Record series where I pick the perfect soundtrack for you to listen to while playing our favorite games. And today we are taking a look at Ethnos, one of the coolest subversions of fantasy area control games that you have ever played. I love this game, from its John Howe art matched with bizarre techno skittle pieces to the fact that it's not even really an area control combat game, it's like an area control race game. It's weird, it's experimental, and it is the joint of old ideas like John Howe's artwork and new ideas like fantasy set collection, ease of play, friendly goodness. And I cannot think of a better subversion and mashup of old and new, challenging expectations like early 2000s rockers, The White Stripes, and Get Behind Me, Satan is the perfect album for you to listen to because it is that kind of weird experimental subversion awesomeness that just exudes experimentation, and it defies you to put it into a box. Yeah, it's like old classic blues and Appalachia music, but at the same time, it is definitively indie rock with pop sensibilities. I mean, Jack White is a masterclass songsmith, and Meg White just brings a kind of like primal childishness to the whole thing. It is playful, it is adventurous, and it is altogether fun and snappy. Yeah, it moves quick. Get Behind Me, Satan is what I consider the artistic peak of White Stripes. Not only that, both of them kind of look like elves. So yeah, they'd fit into the world of Ethnos. So if you're looking for something that's fun, that's kind of raucous, but also melodic and thought-provoking, and it has the appropriate demure to match that classy John Howe artwork, but also is peppy and fun for those techno skittle pieces, then look no further than The White Stripes' Get Behind Me, Satan, one of the best indie albums of the early 2000s. I think this might be a bootleg copy. Alright everyone, let me know what you thought of our pick. What do you think of The White Stripes, and what do you think of Ethnos? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald, and the more that we do of these, the less bad music you will have to suffer at the table.
.323 to 584. D5. Adam Young, 1955.
In today's show, we're going to look at Family Ties, the board game. And in this game, the nice Keaton family's trying to take a family photo, but that stalker Skippy's out to ruin the day and track down Mallory. But I'm going to be in his way. Here's what the game will look like set up. You will have your characters, whoever you want to play as. You can play with any of the players except for Skippy. You'll start here. You have your Say Cheese and your Don't Blink. And you'll have your money set up over there. Everybody will start the game out with $50. How many games have the classic theme of a family getting together to take a nice family portrait for mother? Not many. Get away from us, Skippy. In addition, you will have 6 cards in your hand. These will be randomized, and you will have 6 cards, and one person in their 6 cards will have the Skippy card. In order to win the game, you have to have 1 card of each family member in your hand. So each card has to be different because there's 6 family members and only 6 cards that can be in your hand. And if you have the Skippy card in your hand, you cannot win because it would take the place of one of the family members. And you must have $100.
You should fear a game that has a single white 6-sided die, but I'm here to tell you that this game may be safe for adventures. Let me check out that trail for you.
On a turn, you simply roll the dice and you move that many spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you do whatever spot that you land on. Some of the spots will allow you to take a Say Cheese card.
Say cheese!
Which will be an additional character from the show. If you already have it, or you're already up at 6 and you have to discard a card, I already have an Elise card, so I'll just get rid of one of my cards. It doesn't matter which one. Some of the cards that you'll get will have you move the Skippy around the board. You never want to be the player with Skippy, but keep in mind, somebody at all times will have the Skippy and thus are in a position to not win the game. You also will get these Don't Blink cards.
Don't you dare blink!
Which will have different Take That things on it. So Alex and Andrew went to the shopping mall to watch Wall Street News on the big screen, discard an Alex or Andrew card. So if you had an Alex or Andrew, then you would have to discard this card, hoping you could get it back at some other point. Let's take a look at a couple more of these. Mallory's boyfriend puts a piece of his environmental art, junk sculpture, on your front lawn. You get fined for running a junkyard without a license. You have to give up $10. Elise can't be there to pose for the portrait. She has to go to her people who are against people who are against people meeting. Discard an Elise card. Hands off. And there'll be things that you can do. Now, the most interesting part of the game is this hand management, where you're trying not only to try to get Skippy out of your hand, but you're trying to get one of each player. Now, the way they go about that, of being a random play, isn't that much fun, but it is fun trying to do this. Now, there is a position in the game where you can be trading people, think Settlers of Catan, where you can trade cards off for money. Obviously, nobody's going to take Skippy from you, but if you had 2 Andrews, you want to get rid of an Andrew, maybe get $20 in return, you can do so.
It's okay to trade, but I don't want to see any of you guys stealing at home.
You also have these spaces on the board where you can go to the left or the right, depending on which min-max you want to do, or maybe what you're trying to accomplish. But that's the game of Family Ties. First person on all 6 players and have $100 wins the game.
Family Ties is a television program about a family in the 1980s. That's not exactly board game material. So the plot and the theme of this episode that you're playing on your table is kind of thin, to be honest. Yet, there are some interesting mechanics that have been added to this game that we didn't see necessarily at that time. It did borrow trading from Monopoly, but we see it more in a Settlers of Catan kind of vein here, where you can trade anything and everything during the allowable time. While the game does rely on roll and move and flipping over a random card to see what happens to you, the hand management and trading is really where this game comes to life. In the hand management, you can only ever have 6 cards in your hand. Somebody's going to have that Skippy card. So you have to keep moving Skippy, but also get one of each type of card, which just so happens to be a member of the family. In my humble opinion of a civil servant, I have to say this is one of the better games that I've played based on an IP from a 1980s television show. Yes, it utilizes roll and move, but the hand management and the trading really do add quite a bit to this game. While I doubt that you'd want to play this if you're not a fan of Family Ties, if you are in love with the history of board games, I think this is a game you should check out. I would throw that Skippy in jail, but if you're going to play this game, you're going to get off scot-free. Kids watching at home, I just want to tell you to say no to Skippy.
Hi, we're Board Game Opinions. My name's Steve Rain.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I'm Mark Windle.
And we're now introducing our golden oldie for the month, which could also be our flavour of the month. It's been played that much. And that is the board game Crokinole, which is effectively curling in a much smaller space. In Crokinole, what you're trying to do is you're flicking discs onto a board on this really slippery board. You don't have to hit them very hard for them to fly all over the place. And on your turn, Jonathan's playing Mark. On your turn, Jonathan is going to try and start his piece off on the back line here in his quarter of the board. And if Mark's got a piece on the board, Jonathan has to make contact with that, otherwise it will come off. So although Jonathan, well done, although he hit the piece, that's absolutely fine. If he'd missed it completely and his was on the board, it would be removed. He hit the piece, but his fell off anyway. It will now be Mark's turn, and Mark, from his quarter, he will flick it onto the board. However, Jonathan's got no pieces, so Mark needs to finish his shot somewhere in this centre circle. I think this is stage fright going on here. But this piece, if it finished in the centre circle, would stay there. If it didn't, like it didn't with Mark's particular case, it will come off. It will be back to Jonathan's go, and he will try to flick things on. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to score points by getting your discs to finish the game in certain spaces. This circle's 15, then 10, then 5. So at the end of the game, Mark's currently got 15, 30, 40 points. However, Jonathan earlier managed to get one in the centre one and get popped in here. And anything that gets in there is a banker 20 points. And depending on what version of scoring you're playing, effectively you're looking at the net difference in scores. So if Mark scores 50, Jonathan scores 30, either Mark wins the board and he'd score some points, or Mark wins by 20 and you play to something like 100. What do we think, guys?
So when I first saw this, I was like, it's just a dexterity game, you flick a few discs, it doesn't look that interesting. But when you start playing it, I don't know quite what happens, but it's just so much fun. You kind of get into the strategy. Is actually a lot more strategy than you might first think. And the other thing I really like about it is you get better with practice. I mean, like most dexterity games, I suppose, the more time you spend flicking, the better you get, although I'm probably not showing it. Steve is excellent at this because he's got it. You've had it in the shop, haven't you?
Yeah.
And they've been playing it and playing it and playing it. But I love it.
Yeah, the first time I played it was the UK Games Expo, a good few years ago now. And it's one of those games that, because they were always out on display, every time I walk past it, I'll play it, whether it be whatever. It's just because it's so easy just to pick up and start flicking a few pieces once you know the basic rules, which aren't too difficult. It's just sit down, play quickly, walk away, come back later and play again. Great thing to have on a table, somewhere where anybody can have access to it, because there's just not that much to it, but it's really fun to, everybody can sit around and get together. I love it as teams as well and stuff when you can play various variations of the main.
Yeah, you can play 2v2, so you'd have you and your teammate would stand opposite sides of the board and you'd have half the number of pieces each, and you'd be flicking it on. So if it's my turn, I'd want to try and finish a shot so it was there, so that the person to my left would find it hard to get through these pegs. These pegs in the middle are pretty resilient, pretty bouncy, and if you kind of hit it into the peg, it goes straight back off again.
You've been running a tournament, haven't you?
Yeah, we basically, I brought it, introduced it to some people. We just played it there during the daytime when it was not that busy and stuff. And people really like it. People will actually come to board game nights and spend hours playing this. We're running a tournament in the cafe at the moment. We've got 16 people for the first one, which is brilliant.
I really like playing the team version, actually. Usually with this kind of thing, I'd rather play one-on-one, but it's just really fun, and I don't mind too well how well I do, but you can pull off some great shots.
You never hear people cheering when they get a random shot that goes completely wrong, but you end up knocking 3 of your opponents off by some silly fluke and everything.
Or coming off 2 pegs and falling in the middle. Yeah,
there's some great shots. And you can also, like a bit like you're saying with the curling or snooker or something, if you leave it in the right place, you can effectively snooker your opponent and make it really hard for you to hit the shot. So I've seen some very clever play.
It's very important to not just hit theirs off the board, but keep yours on. So like the shot Jonathan played earlier, his went off the board and Mark had a free shot at the centre. Well, if you get it in the centre, it's a guaranteed 20 points. You can't undo that 20-point gain effectively. So yeah, there are some tactics involved in the game. Anyway, I think it's from the 1850s or so it definitely is a golden oldie. If you ever have a chance to play it, I'm not saying you buy it because it's quite expensive, but if you have a chance to play it sometime, give it a go. You might love it. You might do what I've done and kind of fork out for a board yourself. We've been Board Game Opinions. I've been Steve Rain.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Mark.
And that is Crokinole, our golden oldie. See you.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to bring you another episode of Solo-Thrash, Amerithrash gaming for those of us who like to play alone. Today, I want to give you some tips about how to go solo at a con. I just got back from Dice Tower Con. I know some of you guys are getting ready to go to Gen Con. And let's get real, we solo players have to handle cons in a special way. First of all, you should always make sure to actually play solo at a con. Why would you pay a bunch of money to go play games with other people when you could be playing them by yourself? Second of all, don't bother trying to find people to go to dinner with you. Just order a bunch of food to your room and eat up there by yourself. It's peaceful. Some lovely cheese pizzas, just for me. Okay, so as you can probably tell, I'm joking. Cons are for making friends, going to meet people, and getting in some games. But you should also be patient, because cons are for everyone, and no matter what kind of person you are, or what kinds of games you like to play, or how you like to play them, if you look around, you're probably going to find someone who likes to play just like you do. So for those of you who are going to Gen Con, have fun. I'm totally jealous. For those of you who aren't, well, let's just stay home and play a nice solo game. And no matter what, happy gaming.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jennette the Metal Meeple, and this is the Budget Board Game Breakdown. So a game that I really think fits a budget model is a game that is super replayable, a game that you can put down and you want to play multiple times in a row. This game, this episode, is called Stroop. It's a small little card game, comes in a small little box. And basically when we've played this, we've played it literally 5 to 6 times in a row, every single time I've shown a group. So I thought this would make a great budget game, simply because typically when we play small card games like this, we might play it once or maybe twice. And then we would move on to a meatier game. But in this, I mean, people just wanted to play it over and over and over. And I think it's because of what it does. So the game comes with 2 decks of cards. And basically, you're going to use the white deck at first. Everybody's going to get 15 cards. We're going to randomly just give out 15. And there's 4 different kinds. There's colors, which you'll see like red. Here's blue. There's red. There's yellow and black. And then you're going to have the different actual colors. Then you're going to have the size, so it's either going to be uppercase or lowercase. You're going to have hollow text, and you're going to have solid text, and you're going to have a number of letters. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6 letter words. Basically, you're going to get a deck of cards, and on your turn, it's real time. You're going to put one card out in the middle and say, go. Now, everybody's going to start flipping through your cards like this. The cards that you have in this hand, you can thumb through. Otherwise, you have to go one at a time. And on the first round of the game, you're going to use this card. This card has to describe the card that you're playing. So in this case, we're looking for a blue card. So we flip through. Here's a blue card. Now this says black, so we want to find a black card. Oh, here we go. This says red. Here's a red card. Here's a big. This is a big card. Obviously, you're going to have multiple players doing this, so you're not going to be as quick. But and then you would keep going. So now we got to play a card that's 6 letters. Oh, here we go. We have to play a little text. As a matter of fact, I didn't really shuffle this from when I messed up on the first example, so we'll just flip through here. So we got to play a little card. Here's a little card. Now we got to play a big card. Here's a big card. And you would just kind of yell out what you play down. So now you would say blue, and everybody would know that you have to switch to blue, or you can play where you don't do that. After one player has gotten through their hand of cards, maybe they'll get down to 1 or 2 cards, and they don't have a valid play. Because this says blue, we don't have a blue card, we yell stop. The game ends, all the cards in the middle, and obviously there'll be a little bit more cards out here, are redistributed among the players. So you can see whoever ended the round will start the next round with less cards, basically. And you're ready for round 2. There's only 2 rounds to the game, and what's going to happen is a card gets flipped out, and now you have to describe something about that card. So we could play big because it's uppercase. We could play 6 because it's 6 letters. We could play blue because it's the color blue, and we could play solid because it's solid text. So it's not black, it's not 5 letters, it's not 4 letters, it is blue. Now I yell blue. And so somebody would be like, now somebody would look through there. Oh, it is a 4-letter word. This is not 5-letter. It's not black. It's not black. It is red, etc. And you would keep going like that. This is not big case. It is not 6. It is little case. And you would keep going until somebody says stop again, and then that round would end. And then whoever has the least amount of cards is going to be the winner. If you want to make it even crazier, it comes with another deck that you can shuffle in, and it adds backwards and forward cards where the letters are backwards and printed backwards and stuff. And this can actually hold or make the game a 5-player game as well. So that's pretty much Stroop. It works off the Stroop effect, where it's like your brain sees something and interprets it differently because you see the color black, but it's written in yellow kind of deal. So every time we played this, we always wanted to play it multiple times. I thought it was really cool, so I thought I would showcase it in this episode of Budget Board Game Breakdown. If you know games that would use the Stroop effect, let me know below. Comment below. If you played this game, comment below. Tell me what you think of it. It's weird because it really takes somebody to describe it once, and you play it before you're like, that's what it is. And the fact that it's real time just makes it, what? Oh, because as you're playing cards, you get completely confused because everybody's yelling different things, but then you see different things on the table. It's really cool. It's a neat little game. So if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. Email me at timjennette@gmail.com. Follow me on social media. Check out my podcast called Meeplecore. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Hi everyone, I'm Doug Jr. and you're watching a Fellowship of Meeples. Sometimes we have to face the facts that life is more important than games. The truth is, sometimes life gets in the way. Things happen that are unavoidable, and that has happened to me. Over the last couple of weeks, I haven't been able to make it to our game night. Different reasons, big reason being that I had a surgery recently on my foot. Yep, see this? Yep, little Achilles tendon work there. My doctor probably wouldn't appreciate me standing on a chair right now, but this has definitely slowed me down a bit. And hey, you want to see my scar? It's really gross. So while I really hate missing game night, it went on without me. My friends gathered and they had a great game night and played all kinds of cool games while I sat here alone. No, whoa. Copyright. Let's not do that. All right, so what does a person that loves going to game night with their gaming friends do when life gets in the way? Well, there are several options. You can play games with your family. Now, that has also presented a challenge for me lately because, well, Doug the third is literally halfway around the globe right now in Southeast Asia, and so he can't play with me. My oldest son, Robert, he loves to game, but well, he works a lot. He's a very busy guy. He hasn't been available much. And then my youngest daughter doesn't really care to game so much. And my wife's not a huge gamer. She plays sometimes, but also there's another option available to us gamers when game night doesn't work out, and that is solo gaming. Now, solo gaming is not the topic of my show. In fact, that's for my good friend Elizabeth Davidson. She shares all kinds of great stuff on solo gaming, and I love her segment. In fact, it's one of my favorite because I do solo game a lot. Elizabeth and I are good friends. We're like this. Well, this is me over here, but no, I've never actually met Elizabeth, but I'd like to. Elizabeth, we need to hang out sometime. So, solo gaming is an option, and I love a good solo game. In fact, one of my favorites is Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island. I do like this game. This has got a lot of strategy, a lot of choices, a little luck, and it's a very challenging game, but it also tells a story, which I do enjoy. And the thing with this is sometimes I'm not in the mood to do a big setup. This takes a little while to set up, and gameplay also takes a while. So sometimes, I don't really want to get out Robinson Crusoe. I don't really want to get out Mansions of Madness and some of the larger games that I do play solo. I just want a really quick fix on my gaming itch. And so there are a couple of options that I've found that maybe will help you make some choices as well. Now this little guy here, The Lost Expedition, is a great game where you're seeking off after the city of El Dorado, and you have to overcome a lot of challenges. You're going to gain resources, you're going to lose resources. It's really quick to set up. It doesn't take real long to play, and yet it's extremely challenging. You can adjust the difficulty by how long you make the path to El Dorado. Another of my quick favorites is Hit the Road. Now, I think this is a very underrated game. It's quick to set up, it's quick to play, and there are lots of decisions to be made, so there is some strategy involved, and there is also some luck involved, as you are going to be rolling a bunch of dice to kill zombies and hopefully continue your trip on the road to California. Sometimes life just throws things at us, and there's no reason not to be able to play a game here and there, even if you don't have much time. There are many good selections that can be set up quick, that can play fairly fast, and you can just get your fix and move on. And hopefully soon, next week, I'll be back at game night with my friends. I'm going to take my camera, get some video for you guys. We're going to meet some of the other players and move on from there. So for now, I'm Doug Jr., and you've been watching A Fellowship of Meeples.
Hi everyone, welcome to Jules Reviews. I'm Julie. Today I'd like to give you my review of Vegas Dice Game. Vegas Dice Game is a dice rolling game where you are competing to get the most money by placing your dice on 6 different bets over 4 rounds. I'll talk about the game setup and gameplay first. At the beginning of each round, money cards of at least a total of 50,000 are placed above each bet. Sometimes more than one card will be placed to equal or exceed 50,000 in cards. Then each player chooses a set of dice. In a 2-player game shown here, each player also receives 4 white neutral dice. The game is played over 4 rounds. Players take turns rolling all of their remaining dice and placing dice. On a player's turn, after rolling, all dice of one number is placed on a matching bet. This includes neutral dice. This continues until all players have placed their dice, ending the current round. At the end of the round, the player with the most dice on a bet wins the highest money card. The player with the second most dice wins the next highest card if one is available. In a tie, all tied players do not win cards. In a 2-player game, it is possible for the neutral player to have the most dice and win cards or tie other players. The goal is to have the most money after 4 rounds. This can be a bit nasty since all players are trying to get the best card above each bet and will place dice, especially neutral dice, to deny other players. Vegas Dice Game is really easy to teach, learn, and remember. The betting cards are thick and the dice are easy to roll. The cards are made to look like money, but there is not much artwork. This game takes very little time to set up, teach, and play. I find it fun to play with 2 players as well as 5. I really enjoy this game because I love to roll dice. I would recommend this fun game, especially if you enjoy light dice games that are quick to play. Thank you for watching Jules Reviews. I'm Julie. Have a fantastic day. Bye!
Hey folks, welcome back to another segment of Just Missed It. This is the segment where I take a look at a game that just missed the mark of being good, maybe even just being great. For me personally, it doesn't mean that I think that it's a bad game or anything like that. It just means that for me personally, it just kind of missed the mark of being what I really wanted it to be. And usually I give some reasonings for why. Well, this week we're going to take a look at this game right here, Aristea. This is put out by, Infinity Universe. It's in that universe, and it's put out by Corvus Belli. Now, this game is called the Ultimate Sports Show, and it falls within that category of the same games as games like Guild Ball and Chaos Ball and Blood Bowl and Slaughter Ball, and there's a lot of games that fall within this category that kind of do the same thing. It's this arena-style combat game that where you're trying to score points in some fashion. Those other games that we did, they're more kind of football or soccer-based type systems where you're trying to throw a ball into a goal or you're trying to score touchdowns or something to that effect. But in the midst of all of that kind of action, the sports action, you're also basically beating the snot out of each other and trying to take each other out so that you have a better chance of scoring those points in whatever way is necessary. This one is slightly different in that it is you're trying to control zones of the board, and if you do that, you score a certain number of points. Whenever a new game comes out in the same kind of category as other games that I already enjoy, I want it to be at least as good as those other games that are out there. The miniatures in here are really great miniatures. I like the fact that this is a two-player game, although this is actually could be a downfall of the game because some of those other games are more than two players and you can enjoy them with more than just two players. So that's kind of a downfall as well. So as you can see, this is all just kind of culminating to be wow, really? It looks great. The artwork is fantastic. The miniatures are really good. The actual gameplay isn't that bad either. It's just, more of the same and not really better. So that's why it just kind of missed the mark for me, and I hope you guys understand that. I'll be doing a review of this next week, so keep your eye out for that, and giving you a little bit more of an in-depth reasoning why, how everything works and why it just didn't really meet the mark for me. But that's it for another segment of Just Missed It. Aristea, we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Even Steven here. Today we're going to talk about worth. Worth in board game reviews, worth in the board game industry. What does it mean? Because it can mean very many different things, and I think it really affects what our viewers think of our videos and our content. So let's get to some different examples so you can see what I mean about worth in board games. Now, what got me started on this topic was I just recently purchased Scythe the Legendary Box. It is literally a cardboard box that holds everything for Scythe. And a lot of people on the internet said, is this worth it? It is literally just a cardboard box that holds things. You already have a box for Scythe. You can just carry it in different boxes. If you have too much, what's the difference, right? But for me, this was worth it because I purchased it. So when you watch a video review of a game or a product, whatever it is, and they say, this is worth it for me, you need to realize that that's very subjective, right? Because for many different people, worth it might not be for you, or it might be for you. You might align with their viewpoint. So you really need to think about things in an objective way rather than a subjective way when you're looking at worth, both in reviews and if the game is good, if the product is worth it. You need to think about many different things before you're quick to jump to a conclusion. So for me, this box helps me carry it in one simple go, right? I don't have to pack up everything anymore in many different boxes for the expansions. I have it all right here. So for me, this was worth it, even though it's probably overpriced for just a cardboard box, right? But it's really nice, and I like it, and it's good artwork, and it serves a purpose that I need. So it's worth it for me. For you, you'll have to make that decision yourself. Now let's get to another example. Now, in this case, we're going to look at a small game, Insider. Very small, portable game with a cheap price point. Is this worth it? I don't know. It depends. If you play it a lot and it's a cheap price point, it might very well be worth it, right? If you enjoy the game, it's worth it. So when you look at a review of a smaller game, you need to see maybe if you get a lot of playtime out of it for the amount of price you get, maybe that's how you calculate its worth, but it's really up to you. Another thing that reviewers will sometimes do is top 10 lists of older games that they enjoy. So this game for me, Settlers of Catan, I know it kind of gets not as such a good reputation in the board game industry sometimes. However, it brings a lot of people into the hobby. And for me, this is worth the keep because this is the game that got me into the hobby. Yeah, I haven't pulled it out in probably a year or two, but hey, is it worth it for me to keep it? Because this is what got me into board games, so this is kind of a positive memory for me. Yeah, maybe so. So if there's a game like that for you, don't be ashamed if you haven't played it. If it's worth it for you to keep it, then keep it. Next, we'll look at a deluxe game, right? So our deluxe game's worth it. This Ticket to Ride 10th anniversary, really beautiful trains, a nice big map, just better components than the original game. So are deluxe games worth it? Again, very subjective, right? So it depends. Is your group going to play it? Are they going to enjoy it more with the deluxified components? Sometimes it's hard to tell just from initial view without actually seeing it yourself. So again, look out for deluxe games and say, is it worth it? You're going to have to make that decision yourself. Another example, deluxe components or coins, right? Are these worth it? Well, I think if you play the game enough, it probably is, because it'll make you enjoy that game even more. Now, the thing with worth and deluxe components, is it worth it to get them right when you buy the game, right? Even if you don't know if you're going to like the game. But if they're worth it, the coins you could use in another game, right? Or maybe that initial playthrough, if you had deluxe components, might make your friends or colleagues or whoever's playing the game with you like it more the first time, which means it might bring it out more to play it more. So I don't know, again, you'll have to think about it yourself, but is it worth it to get deluxe components only if you like the game, or the first time? I'm not sure. And lastly, we have out-of-print games, or old games that are classics, that maybe their gameplay isn't good, but you really like the theme, or you think it's a cool collector's item, right? So is this worth it for me, Pokemon Master Trainer? Yeah, because I love Pokemon. But it's probably not worth it for everyone, right? Okay, everyone, there's a short discussion about worth in games and some different examples. So hopefully that'll make you think about when you're making a next purchase, you really need to think about yourself and think about, is it worth it for you? Or is it worth it for your game group? Some things you might have to take into account are money, time, all these different things. When is it worth it at this moment? So hopefully this can help you think about it a little bit more objectively and realize that people are subjective when they're trying to explain to you about the game and if they like it or if they think it's worth it. We need to remember that sometimes, I think. So hopefully this will help you. We'll see you next time.
Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying your lunch. This is the Starting Tile, your source for new and obscure gateway games. Today I'm looking at Micropolis. This is a very recent game that's come out actually from Bruno Cafala and Charles Chevalier, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is the same tag team that did Abyss, one of my favourite games of all time. And Micropolis is a very simple gateway game where you are drafting tiles from a selection in front of you in order to build an ant colony. You have to place your soldier ants on this little circular piece in front of you, and then as you draft tiles, very much in the same way that you do in Small World and Majesty for the Realm, where you have to put a soldier ant on each tile that you skip before the one you pick, you will draft a tile and you will build it around this circular piece in your colony. So each turn you have to build it to the left or the right of the pieces that you've already got. What you're trying to do is connect up tunnels in order to have a large quantity of ants, different specialist ants, lots of soldier ants, different pieces of fruit, basically various ways in order to score points. And that's pretty much the game. It caters for 2 to 6 players, comes in a small box, the insert holds everything nicely, and it's just, from what it says on the back, only takes about 30 minutes to play. So through my previous acronym EASY, how does it fare? Well, E for ease of play. This is very simple. There is only about a page of rules to do with the actual rules of the game, in terms of the turn sequence. There's like about half a page for that, and then another half a page for scoring, and then one page for the specialists, which all work very easily as well. It's very simple to pick up and play. You could find this at a cafe and get started within about 10 minutes. And, the actual system would be familiar to a lot of people who have played similar tile drafting games. So this should not be a difficult one to get into. A stands for aesthetics, and aesthetics-wise, it's pretty nice looking. The insert, holds everything neatly. It's a small box. The artwork is very cutesy and colourful, and the tiles themselves replicate this artwork as well. Granted, you have to accept that there's a lot of brown because you are basically underground in an ant colony, but, that aside, you've got colourful pieces of fruit. The ants themselves look cool, like something from an animated movie. You've got little red miniature pieces, like mini miniatures for the soldier ants, and, it's generally a very well presented game. As long as you're used to dealing with these triangular tiles, in a sense, they're sort of like semi-triangular tiles. It's kind of weird, but it fits very nicely around your centre circular piece, and it's a nice little pleasant spectacle. S for scalability. Yes, this caters for 2 to 6 players. I would say it's probably better around the center mark. With 2 to 3 players, there is an expert mode where you can build 2 colonies at once. That's fair, that's alright, that's okay, but that's really only for people who are really used to this game. With 5 or 6 players, you kind of run out of choices on the drafting a little bit too often, but the game is still fairly quick with that. I find that this works best with about 3 to 4 players, and can work with 5. I don't tend to want to play it with 6 that often, but it's you have the option and it does work. And this isn't the sort of game that I would pull out really for 2 players. I think there are better gateway 2-player games out there. So it's kind of ho-hum on the scalability issue. And then why for the yawn factor? Is this going to get boring over time? Well, there's a considerable amount of tiles in the stack and you will not use them all every game, particularly with less players. So you will see a little bit of a variety in which tiles come out, and you have to adapt your strategies as they see fit. Other than that though, the scoring opportunities don't really change, you are still drafting the tiles and the general gameplay is the same. And the tiles are basically just how many ants, what are the tunnels like on them. So there's no major sense of variety other than the 6 specialists, which crop up every now and again, and you obviously won't get to use all of them every game on your own colony, but see what comes out and see what you pick. So maybe there's a little bit of an issue with the, replay value, but I reckon you'll still get quite a lot of games out of this one. It's not expensive, and it's hard to find gateway games that cater for 5 to 6 players as well. So that's all I've got to say on Micropolis. It's a nice, decent hit from Bruno Cafala. If you're a fan of his games, if you like Madigo the publisher, or if you just like drafting in general, this is one you should take a look at. So that's it for me on this episode of The Starting Tile. If you like what you see, please subscribe to The Broken Meeple and check out my channel. Other than that, hope you're enjoying your lunch, and I'll see you on the next Token Punch Lunch. Take care, see you soon.
So that's that for another episode of Token Punch Lunch. I want to thank everybody that has joined us here for joining us. We thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to see what we've provided for you. I want to thank all my contributors as well. You continue to do a great job, and I certainly appreciate everything that you do, so thank you so much for that. Don't forget the Rebellion Storage giveaway that we're going to be running until August 6th. That is the last date that you can send me an email, and Gmail tells me all of the dates that are sent, so if I get any after that, they will be discluded from the final lottery, so to speak. So we're going to pick a random one out of all of those emails that we receive, and then we'll get it to you as soon as we can. So send me an email at sam@dicetower.com, and in the subject heading, just put Rebellion Storage Giveaway, so that I can differentiate that from other emails that I might be receiving at that address. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get out of your hair and let you get back to the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.
Fatality.